stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I'll be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross.
Good evening, BTC. This is your boy, DJ Barbecue. We have a very, very, very special guest. We have the owner, operator, CEO, the big boss, Mercer Sage. Mercer, thanks for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome, DJ Barbecue. Happy to be here.
So, you are the owner, operator, and the big boss, like I said, of the Elite Wrestling Initiative. For the viewers and the also listeners, explain and give them a little back history.
Oh, well, yeah, the Elite Wrestling Initiative, we started that on Black Friday in November 2011. So we've been kicking around for a while now. And, I myself have been wrestling for... it's going on 11 years. It will be 11 years in December. And I was just really happy to have the Elite Wrestling Initiative around this long, considering so many other companies come and go so quickly in this state.
So tell us a little bit about yourself on what attracted you to professional wrestling to the point to where now you run and own and edit your own promotion.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got into wrestling back in the early 90s, and I kind of got into that my best friend got me into it, and I was one of those people that like to cuss down wrestling and say it was fake and all that good stuff or bad stuff, whatever you want to say.
Right.
But he got me into playing the LJN game, Royal Rumble.
I remember that one.
And when I got into that, then he eased me into watching wrestling as well. And once I got into Bret Hart, that's when I started becoming a real fan of professional wrestling.
I was just going to ask you which wrestler at that point really caught your eye. You said Bret Hart. What about Bret Hart did you what resonated with you? What stuck with you?
Well, first of all, what I really enjoy about wrestling itself is the artistry of exchanging holds and this and that, and Bret Hart was prominent with all of that stuff. He was well, I mean, not to reuse the term, but he was an artist.
Right.
And watching him is what really inspired me to want to be. I wanted to be in that. I wanted to do that. And there's just no comparison to what Bret Hart did out there. And not just that, but his character really resonated with me, and how Vince really pushed it in the WWF back in those days. And the storytelling was phenomenal, and that really pulled me in as a fan and made me want to watch more and more.
Right.
And the product back then was just really enjoyable to watch for me as a fan growing up, and that's what made me want to do this at the age of 13.
Right on. They do say that the Calgary wrestling is kind of the blueprint of professional wrestling. I mean, there's a who's of names that are out there from Canada. Speaking of who's, which wrestlers have you had at your promotion? And is there any big names that you've recently had?
The only big names that I've really brought in was Lisa Marie Verone, who I just brought in this year, and I had Mike Elgin a couple years back, and who else is that? Hernandez. I had him back in 2017, and he'll be coming back later this year yet.
Oh, so. That's very cool. So When do you usually run your promotions? Do you do them 3 times, 4 times a year?
I usually like to run shows every other month, but lately it's been more like every 6 weeks. So a lot of my guys have been telling everyone we run monthly, which it kind of ends up being that way because of how 6 weeks runs.
Okay.
But I still say we run every other month because I don't like to commit to every month, even if that's how it seems on the calendar.
Right. So from you being a
So.
performer, what is the difference from that to being a producer, an editor, and the owner? Those four different departments have to come with a lot of stress and a lot of time. Can you tell the listeners and the watchers what is different between all of them?
Well, I was going to say that the biggest difference is stress, because that's really it. Whenever I work a show where I am not, producing or promoting or in any way, shape, or form, I'm just wrestling. It is like the best thing ever because all I have to focus on is the one little segment of the entire show. That one match is all I have to worry about. But when you're running the entire show or you're producing, you have to look at the entire picture. So you might, as a wrestler, you're focused on this one little segment that creates the whole piece. But as a promoter or producer, you got to see the whole piece. And these little segments are just, one other piece to a more significant entire masterpiece, if you will.
Right.
And that as a producer and promoter, well, producer and I guess director would be a better way to say that. That is what the biggest difference is between that and being a performer. Performer, you just come in and you get your orders and you go and you take care of it. As the producer, you're giving the orders. You know what you want to see, and you have to tell all these other guys, this is what I want in this segment, this is what I want in that segment, and da 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 da, and hope that it all comes together and looks good as an entire piece.
Right. With your experience in professional wrestling and the independent scene, who trained you? Who did you idolize that helped you work your way up to this point of having your own promotion?
Well, who I idolized and who trained me are two different people.
Okay.
I idolized Bret Hart, but I was trained by uh, Ernie Ellis, former AWA wrestler,
Oh, right on.
and his son. And then I was also trained by a guy named Brian Walter from South Dakota down there as well.
Oh, right on. Um, some of the promotions have different titles. What titles do you have at Elite Wrestling Initiative?
The Elite Wrestling Initiative, when I decided to come up with titles and all that stuff and become, basically a whole promotion, I never wanted weight classes and I didn't want regional titles.
Okay.
So I came up with different names that would give us the ranking of the title, but it wouldn't be like heavyweight or light heavyweight or North Dakota or Minnesota or all that other stuff that other promotions do. So we have three major titles right now that are singles titles, and that would be the EWI Epic Championship is our main title,
Okay.
and then we have the EWI Initiative Championship is our secondary. And then the third one is the Diamond Championship, which is like a 24/7 title,
Okay.
defended at all times. Lately, though, it hasn't been getting defended that way, so I'm thinking of getting away from that and just making it more of like an internet type of title with like a 10-minute time limit at the end of it.
Very cool. Very cool. Name some of the wrestlers that you would have on your roster that some of us viewers and listeners may not know.
Well, a lot of the guys that I have, first of all, I'm going to start with the guys that I've trained personally, which would be Nick Nelson, Alexander Chance Evans or Ace. We got Sid Burton, Leon Travis, which are the same guy. And then on the other side, we also have guys that I bring in, which would be Danny Duggan. I've had AJ Sanchez work for me. I've had Tyler Colton, Travis Cole, Tommy Lee Curtis used to work for me at one point. I have Daredevil Derek Fury, who has been my Epic champion, longest reigning in my company. He started with us. So, I mean, in theory, you could say he's an EWR original, but I met him when I worked in Northern Outlaw Wrestling.
Okay.
So,
what are some of the things that you did with Outlaw Wrestling?
well, that's where I started because
Okay.
I started training there with them when Ernie Ellis was there,
Okay.
and I started at their premiere event, which was in December 2008, and I was with them for a couple months, and then this whole thing went down that was very kind of like a shakeup on getting certain people out of that company and whatnot, and I ended up leaving as a part of that.
Okay.
So then I ended up in Dakota Pro Wrestling with Brian Walter and Ernie Ellis.
Very cool.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, and then yeah, it was a crazy time back then.
With everything that you've learned all the way up to now, what are some of the things that you might feel that are similar to what the mainstream wrestling is today?
Mainstream wrestling is today. That's very tough because I try to do things against mainstream. But I guess if I had to say it, it'd be a lot of the guys I bring in from Canada, like Danny Duggan and his boys. A lot of them do a lot of things that I feel are very mainstream
Okay.
to today's viewers, and I think that's exciting for a lot of people that come out. I also like because like he brought in Mentolo, and he's really I think he's worked out in Japan at one time or another, and he's really good. Yeah.
One of the things that some people might ask, uh, the old territory days. Do you function like kind of like the old territory days, to where you go outside of the area, or do you mostly stay in that North Dakota area?
Yeah, I pretty much function like the territory days, where I stick to my area. Um, I consider my area like central North Dakota based, pretty much.
Very cool. Is there any stories that you could tell us that you've that remember from the times that you've been in professional wrestling?
Stories like I don't know. I mean, my stories are I'm very pretty much stuck on running my show and whatnot. So I think a lot of the fun stories that wrestlers always tell, I tend to either be out of it or I'm the disciplinarian of them.
Right, right.
So I'm
Um,
always making the rules to keep like things like ribs and all that stuff under control.
right.
And yeah, because I know of one guy that got ribbed pretty hard. He was one of my new guys, and he got ribbed by one of Danny Duggan's guys, and I got really mad about that, and because it started interfering with my work on what I was doing, and I remember hooting and hollering pretty good about that. So
Right. A lot of people don't realize that there is a lot of ribbing. You know, you got a group of guys and gals together. There's always going to be jokes, and then some people take ribs a little bit too far, but you always will have that, and a lot of people don't understand that.
well,
What are some?
this last show on a rib, this last show, one guy got his they hit his suitcase,
Oh,
and then he ended up leaving the show without a suitcase.
oh wow.
So, us when we cleaned up the we tore down and we packed everything up and got ready to go. We found this extra suitcase, and we're like, well, whose is this? So we were trying to figure out whose it was, and finally we got a hold of somebody that was headed that direction, and they came back and grabbed it for him and took it with them.
Right
But yeah, I
on.
didn't find out that it was a rib until like the next day.
Has there been any female wrestlers within the Elite Wrestling Initiative?
Yeah, we booked Lisa Marie Verone earlier this year, but we've had we booked Desi Derada a few years back, and we liked her, and then we brought her back towards like I think it was either at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, And then she became our Epic champion, and she's our current Epic champion right now.
Very cool. When you're doing a professional wrestling show and you're traveling outside of your area, what are the things that it takes to promote that? Because some people don't understand that it's, not just social media. What are some other things that if somebody is like, well, I'd like to, try to do something like this, tell them and give them examples of what it would take?
A lot of money. No, you need to like when you're running an area that is outside of you or you can't get to, you have to either have people there to advertise there, or you have to go find time to go there personally and advertise there yourself. I guess the term in wrestling terms would be papering, which is like hanging up flyers and whatnot like that. I tend to try and go through either radio or outdoor advertising, things like that, especially when I'm going into a new area that I've never been to.
Right. I like to use the term, you got to pretty much have boots on the ground and you got to walk around. My son referees every once in a while with a promotion down here in South Dakota, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't realize that it took a little bit of work to do that. You see all the glitz and glamour of, it being on radio and TV, and there's a lot of work behind that. That just doesn't easily happen. Um, and you find out that firsthand when you do that. Um, Anything that you like watching today, if people are like, I wonder what he does to get his, kind of his ideas, his creative, juices flowing. What are some things that you look at that helps you do that?
Well, I don't really. I mean, the only thing I watch today is probably New Japan. But other than that, no, I don't really get my ideas from them because I'm going the opposite direction.
Okay.
I get my ideas, or I get the creative juices flowing generally from the era that I watched growing up, which is the '90s.
Right on.
And I grew up in an era that isn't so popular among people because I like the new generation era of the WWF. And the reason I like that era is because that's when things were starting to get a little more like they started using lights and whatnot, and entrances were more prominent. Videos were just becoming a thing. Like nobody understands that before then there was no videos. And I like the basicness of it, especially when in terms of today's technology. And I figure when I look back at that, I think that I can do, or I can get close to that with
Right.
with low budget and all that stuff. But I can't do today's wrestling. Today's wrestling is just way too high production and all that other stuff. So when I watch it, I like that because of not just because of that, but because of the wrestling and how it was more of a feature. It was featured more as wrestling than it was in story. Story was a thing, but it wasn't the main thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? The storytelling was in how you perform the match, and that's that's what attracted me to wrestling. That's what makes me passionate about it, and that's what I like to teach my guys, and also what I like to keep my product as. I try to keep my product in those parameters.
Right. And you mentioned New Japan Pro Wrestling. Any athletes from
Uh,
that promotion that you resonate with, that you
yeah,
enjoy watching?
Kazu- Kazuchika Okada.
Right.
I love Okada. I used to love Nakamura before he went to the E, and I like God, a lot of people. I like Goto. Um, who's that one dude that I like and everybody hates? I forget his name.
Is it
God damn, I can't think of his name right now. But yeah,
Tamatonga?
no. It's one of the lighter guys.
Juice?
He's British. He's British. No, I hate
Oh,
Juice.
is it Zack Sabre?
No, it's not Saber's the other guy.
Osprey?
Yes, Osprey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Osprey, that's a unique hybrid athlete right there.
yes.
Um,
See, I like him because I hate spot fests, and
yeah,
he's a spot monkey. But for some reason, he can make the spots make sense in storytelling.
right.
And I don't know how he does it. I don't care how he does it. All I know is that they make sense and they're awesome to look at.
For you said spot monkey, and a lot of them think that it might be kind of like a term to put somebody down, but it's actually a term that a lot of individuals inside the professional wrestling business use. Would you give a little example for the listeners and the watchers of what a spot monkey would be?
A spot monkey is generally somebody it's really meant towards high flyers a lot because they jump off of the top rope a lot, or a lot of things is based on their high risk stuff, and they'll go from one spot to the next to the next to the next. And a spot monkey can be a negative thing if they do that and they're just doing it just to do it. But if you make it make sense in the story, then that spot monkey is okay as far as in the wrestling business is concerned, because they can make it make sense, and then it's not so bad to be a spot monkey at that point.
Right. Well, we're getting towards the end of the show, and I always like to ask this question to everybody that's on the show. Name your out of every since you started, out of any promotion, every timeline, what is your top 5 professional wrestlers that you would say that you like of all time?
Of all time, in like all the
Yeah.
the world promotions or whatever.
Yep, everything. It doesn't matter if it's independent,
Yeah,
world, semi-independent. Your top 5 wrestlers.
Okay, past or present, or just present?
We'll do both. Let's do past and let's do present, but let's do the past first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go all time if I can include past then.
Yep.
And then I'll go to just present.
Okay.
Well, all time for me would be Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, Okada. I had this figured out all the time. I'm trying to think of the other dude. I want to say Jericho.
Oh, Jericho. Yeah, that's a good one.
And CM Punk.
Okay.
That's my top 5 of all time. Okay, then today I'd say Okada is number 1, and then I'm gonna go Nakamura's 2. Trying to think. I don't watch a lot of wrestling today, so this is tougher. I like what's her name? What the hell is her name? She's in Impact right now. She's Blanchard.
Oh, Tessa Blanchard.
Tessa Blanchard, yeah.
Tessa Blanchard. I said that wrong.
Yeah, Tessa Blanchard. Yeah, I like her. And then Becky Lynch.
The man.
Yeah. And then well, hell, I'm going to stick with Jericho.
Right on.
Yes, he's still around.
What do you think about what's going on with the AEW champion right now with Chris Jericho, since you mentioned that you like him?
I don't know. I don't watch AEW.
You don't?
No, I only found out he was champion through Facebook.
Okay, right on. Right on.
Oh, there's a reason why I don't watch it, by the way.
Okay, let's hear about that real quick.
Yeah, I keep getting emails from people trying to get a hold of AEW. And so I'm mad because their name is too close to mine.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I now looking at it on the screen here, I can see exactly somebody might be saying the All Elite Wrestling Initiative instead of just Elite Wrestling Initiative.
No, yeah. It's not just that. It's like they think just Elite Wrestling. That it's just called Elite Wrestling.
Oh, either so they think just because of the elites right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see where
and
that.
My thoughts are, well, look at the brand. Look at the brand, because our brands are completely different.
Right.
My logo looks nothing like the AEW logo.
Right. Well, at least that people. Hey, I always look at it this way. There's a lot of times that and I said I'm illiterate in the beginning here.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of things that I've done on purpose that I know how to spell the word, but I purposely spell it differently, and it's so completely the wrong way. It's just to get people to talk. So I guess at least people will go to yours and see it, and it's just another way for people to recognize you and know that you're out there.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it.
Even though it's a pain in the rear end, let's just be honest. It's definitely a pain in the rear end.
Well, it makes it hard because when I get actual inquiries, I will not know if they're actually talking to me or
Yeah.
trying to talk to Cody.
Yep. You look at it on the business side. Yeah, I get what
Yeah,
you're saying
that's when
there.
I have to be like, okay, who are you trying to talk to right now? So that's where it's a pain in the ass.
Well, you could just be like Ryback and then, change his name to really Ryback Reeves. And, you could just say that you're, Cody Sage, just make it even more difficult.
No, I'm not changing my name. Like my thoughts are they should change theirs. It's like I had this name first.
Right. Well, for myself, DJ Barbecue on BTC Uncut Live, Mercer Sage, I appreciate you coming and calling in and telling us about your promotion. I wish you all the best. You've inspired me to know a little bit more about the brother up north, which is North Dakota, because I live in South Dakota. Is there anything that you would like to pretty much promote right now at this point?
Well, we have a show coming up in Minot, North Dakota on October 26th, and we have Desi Derada coming down to defend her Epic Championship against Shane Foster. So we're pretty excited about that. We also have on November 22nd and 23rd, we will be having Hernandez coming in for that show in Jamestown, North Dakota. So these are big events that we want everyone to be talking about.
Right on. Just go ahead and repeat that date one more time so people will actually hear it.
Okay, we're October 26th, we're in Minot, and on November 22nd and 23rd, we are in Jamestown. And we have Hernandez coming to the November 22nd and 23rd event in Jamestown. You don't want to miss it.
Very cool, very cool. Well, Mercer, it's been a pleasure of mine. I hope you have a good time and nothing but success for you, my man.
All right, thank you.
Yep, have a good one. Bye, everybody.
You too.
Shooting stars. Didn't even get to cross.